other nation has supplied the Iranians with this technology, but nonetheless, they got a hit and took one of our F-15s down. We've captured the pilot. The weapons specialist is still missing. There's apparently a massive rescue effort where we're still in control of the skies in that area, and we do have people getting ready to surge in once they get a good location. And some of that may be going on as we speak. We're not going to know about it till long after it's happened, which is the right way to be. The Iranians have put a $60,000 bounty out to any Iranian that can capture this pilot alive. He's doing what his training taught him to do. We've had other air incidents too. About the same time, we had an A-10 Warthog go down, we believe, in the Persian Gulf. Those, the pilot and or whoever was on that plane have been rescued. We had a Black Hawk in the search and rescue part of the phase over the F-15. It took fire, and the crew was able to get rescued from that incident. So we've had closer calls than we've had for 33 days. And even though we have air superiority, it's not pure. It's not ever going to be 100% pure with modern day manpads and some of the other weapons that the Iranians still have deployed. They're still shooting back at us, and it's still a dangerous thing. And right now the world is watching this rescue effort and who can get there first. We do have some reporting that we believe the specialist is still alive. It is a man. We don't have identities, obviously. And a great effort is being undertaken right now to save his life while the Iranians try to find him before we do. Just stuff of movie drama. And we've been watching that, waiting on any kind of updates from CENTCOM. They've been saying all afternoon they'd have an update. They haven't done it yet. No real direct word from the White House, other than some reporter was able to get a statement from Trump where he said the talks with Iran will just continue. We're not going to let this derail it. Our guys will just they're going in to get our guy, and we're going to keep pressing forward. But Trump is remaining at the White House for now. I don't know if he's going to stay there through Easter weekend with this going on. We'll wait and see what they announce this afternoon. Still a couple of more hours in showtime on this Good Friday. And if it's a holy spiritual time, and if you're a praying person, pray for the family of this crew member. All the rescuers, they themselves are in the line of fire. We've had several aircraft shot at today, as well as they search for this missing pilot. So we'll continue to keep watch, and the minute something shakes loose or breaks on that, we'll have it for you today. My friend David and I have a business relationship that goes back, I don't know how many years. I bought a boat. David used to own a dealership that advertised with us, and I bought a boat from him. David, you told me when I bought that boat that I could always resell it and get my money back. And I actually, years later, about 7 or 8 years later, sold that boat for what I bought it for. How about that? I did.
Good for you.
Sure. And I enjoyed it until that season was over, and just recently sold it, and very happy to do that.
So most of your viewers are too young to remember what was happening in 1979 and 1980. On the 80 cruise, by the 80 cruise, we had 53 Americans being held hostage. Jimmy Carter was the president. Mm-hmm. I might say a thankless guy. And we were flying combat flights. It's called Alpha Strikes around the clock. We'd launch half the airway. It was the Constellation and the Nimitz were on station 35 miles off the coast of Iran, called Gonzo Station, in the mouth of the Straits of Hormuz. And we did that for months, around the clock, 24 hours a day. There was a strike package in the air 24 hours a day. For my cruise, that was 9 months. And most people don't know that we were making multiple rescues almost every week. As a matter of fact, there was one day that I crashed in July the 13th, 1980, off the deck of the Constellation, where there were 13 downed people in the water on that one day. And, of course, the news never made that it never made the news.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
What's happening right now is there are rescue swimmers, and these are highly trained, elite guys that put their life on the line to go in the water or on land find these guys and bring them home safe. And so as I think about this incident that the world is watching now, I think back 47 and 46 years ago that nobody cared. It didn't make the news.
Yeah. Well, and the news wasn't what it is now. It wasn't 24-hour channels and the internet watching everything. A lot of fake information out there. You know, news traveled a lot more slowly back then, but it was just as dangerous a place as it is right now, which is kind of the point of why we went in there now. The time for the world to be held hostage by this stretch of water should be over. And I remember you being a rescue diver, David, but I didn't know you had done rescues in this same stretch.
Yeah, 35 miles off the coast. It was called Gonzo Station back in those days. And so I want to give props to these guys that are going into the water, because these are highly trained special operations guys that put their life on the line to go rescue someone else. And when they go out of that helo departs, so he won't get shot at.
Yeah.
And that swimmer has to find that guy and take care of him and get him back in that aircraft. And I feel today vindication from 46 years ago that we're doing something, because we did nothing back then. Jimmy Carter would give a deadline, and we did nothing. And he'd do it again, and we did nothing. And he'd do it again, and we did nothing. And then we had the failed Operation Eagle Claw in April of 1980. That was a horrible disaster that could have been averted, but most people don't know. I had a clearance in those days, and so I got all of the telex that came through Ships Intelligence, and Jimmy Carter himself spiked that mission, which caused it to abort and disaster. So I want everyone out there to pray for these pilots and these young men and women that are going in the water. Now, back in my day, it was all men. We didn't have women on ships, and there were certainly no women swimmers, because they just couldn't. They could not complete the rigorous training that we went through. Now they have lowered those standards just a bit, so they can get girls on those ships and in that program. But I visited NAS Pensacola about 9 months ago and went to the rescue swim school, and I was encouraged by the esprit de corps, dedication and honor of all those young folks. So with this unique perspective that I have, I feel vindicated now. I wished I was there. If somebody would call me today, if the president would call me today and say, David, we need you on that ship, I'm gone, brother.
I bet you would. I bet you would, David. David, let me say thank you to you. And you, as I listened to you look over those days and reference Carter, and I was just a kid, but I remember how he behaved as president. And I just want to say this to you from another generation. I'm older than those guys that are out there trying to find our missing pilot right now. But I'm glad they have the country has their back. The president has their back. The Secretary of Defense is about their mission. They're going to throw all they have at this. But thank you and your generation and those guys for serving, even when you doubted the president, even when you knew he was making cowardly decisions and wouldn't really have your back if something went sideways. Politicians like that, and he's not the only president that's poorly dealt with this country. Most all of them did. But the fact that we still have brave people that will step up and serve anyway, and you were one of them back then in worse circumstances in a lot of ways, because you didn't have – the country wasn't as united in those days, and we had a feckless president. And so thank you for doing what you did, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for taking my call. I don't call often, but this thing stirred me today.
Yeah.
Down guys, in the water. Yeah. Yep. So,
yep. David, thank you, man.
It's bringing me to tears. So,
I understand. David, good man, David. Yeah. And his stories are amazing. I remember sitting around talking to him back in the day about those rescue swim attempts. I say it a lot on the show, and I'll repeat it in this circumstance. We relate to stories that we can relate to. and you guys in the military, whether you served at peacetime or at war, I mean, you were standing there at the gate for us, no matter what your job assignment was. And things are getting better. He's mentioned the esprit de corps. These guys they seem to be fighting with purpose and with unity. I think the country is largely behind at least that effort. There's some that aren't. We're in a weird time where you got a whole political party actually pulling for these missions to go awry and for this to go badly. And that means our people get hurt, and that's sick. But for those of you that can clearly remember the late 70s and the lack of morale in the military, I mean, we had movies like Stripes came out lampooning the Army. After Vietnam, a lot of the military service had become a joke. We had the horrifying situation that I'm not saying that it had become a joke. I'm saying in those days, it was the butt of a joke. And then you had the post-Vietnam and the Vietnam era where our veterans were not treated the way they should have been. And the country had a resurrection and found its pride again under Reagan. And so service meant something again, and there was more pride in it. And we're at our 250th anniversary, where we've always counted on these warriors to do things that most of us wouldn't do or couldn't do. And that's happening in real time right now. There are young men and women that are young enough to they're younger than my kids, and they're flying these helicopters, and they're on these boats, and they're on the land, and they're using their training and their tech. And they're listening to their commanders, all the way to the President of the United States. He's in the White House surrounded by his best experts, and they're bringing everything they can to bear to find one man who is alone, we hope, and missing in that very, very rugged country. And we don't even know what the terrain is exactly where he went down. And so if there's any prayers up for tonight, it's for that whole chain of command, all the way from Trump and the decisions he'll make in the coming hours, all the way to the person that's the closest to our guy. Again, I think they'll make a movie out of this one day. Back here in just a minute. All right, y'all, 421, Leland Live, talking NM5 Work Trucks, downtown Birmingham, ready to sell you a vehicle if you've got a business or just a need for a stripped down, basic, commercial-based truck. I remember years ago, my brother, who he doesn't really have a farm, but he's got some pretty large property. He bought a service truck. I thought, what are you doing with that? You going into the electrical business? He found a good deal on one and just said it was really helpful to move all his tools and stuff around on his property. And I thought, that's probably a pretty good idea. So maybe some of you have a personal use for these vehicles. Work Trucks sells trucks that are get it done, stripped down, commercially based trucks, box trucks, cargo vans, passenger vans, every pickup configuration on planet Earth. They've got probably an example of each down there at Work Trucks on any given visit. And they go to a lot of trouble to find the best of these, the lowest miles, no damage, clean trucks, bring them back here. Then they still won't stick them out there on the lot down on 3rd Avenue South unless they've gone through and met all 125 checkpoints on their list. I kid around and say, I don't even know how they come up with 125 things to check, but they check it and they stand behind it after they do that. So if you got a business and you want to grow your fleet, start a business, and you're going to need a truck, trade one in because yours is getting a little older. You got to keep getting to your customers. Y'all go see them at Work Trucks, TRUX, worktrucksllc.com. Let them help you out. Okay, let me flip the script. We'll get away from the search for the pilot for just a minute. We got a new poll out. I'll give credit to AL.com. They just put this story out a little while ago. In the Senate race, we just saw one last week, and it showed the candidates bunched up pretty close together on that poll within the margin of error. This poll is the top three are focused on in this poll. There are several candidates, but you've got three that have critical mass. It's showing Barry Moore in the lead at 26%. Steve Marshall is next at 21%. And Jared Hudson's at 14%. So still pretty close together, but Moore seems to be pulling ahead with the incredible amount of spending that's being done on his behalf. Some of the ads you hear even on our station are not actually the Moore campaign. He's got a multi-million-dollar set of Washington fundraising money coming in with, I think, Club for Growth and some of these other organizations. And, of course, they're playing up. It's a very good, I think it's a well-done introductory spot where they are promoting him as, getting the Trump endorsement. There's a lot of energy in that spot. Marshall has really, to me, these polls continue to be bad for him because he's the statewide elected attorney general, and he's been on decline since the other candidates started getting traction, and he's not rehabilitated himself a whole lot. So Moore has come from behind, really out of nowhere. His name ID is still low. His favorabilities, according to this poll, are they're really high back in his district. His district likes him. He's been a good congressman for him, but people don't know him yet in Alabama. So what he's doing right now, the typical sequence is you want to make an introduction of yourself. You want to say, this is who I am. I want to run for Senate, and that's what all the candidates will eventually do. What happens now is we're getting closer to this May 19th date. We're about 6 weeks out. I think this is when the guns start turning on each other, and whatever they're going to do to negatively try to drive up negatives on any of these guys, it'll start happening in probably the next week or two. They'll get past the Easter holiday and then start focusing on those things. The concept being to especially with a new candidate that's not introduced, it's really what was so effective against Mike Durant and even Mo Brooks is before they could even get themselves introduced, all that Washington money came in and dirtied them up, so people didn't even give them a chance. These candidates are on a little better footing. Now, funding-wise, I hadn't seen anything on funding as it stands this week with this poll. Hudson is still kind of overperforming where he started. He's got the least resources and the least none of the insider contacts to give him critical mass. But if he can stay within striking distance of number two, this remains a race for the top two finishers, right? These three guys are fighting to get into the runoff. Now, the biggest number in this poll, like the poll we saw last week, is the undecided number, and that's still at 35%. That's closed down a little bit. Now, keep in mind, this is a plus or minus of 4.4, so that's a pretty high plus or minus number in a poll. Pretty big margin of error. and it's not the same firm, probably a little different methodology. None of these are going to come out very close to each other until we get closer to election day and all the money's been spent and all the charges have been made and people are starting to dig in. But I would still call this an absolute jump ball. The good news for Barry Moore is his positive campaign is working to get him ahead, and he is beyond the margin with his closest competitor, which is where you want to kind of be and stay. But I still don't see anything in this poll that shows me any of these guys are going to get to 50% without a runoff. So we're going to have an extended season of this. That's the latest one. Again, AL.com putting that out just this afternoon. Here's Regina from Trussville up next on the phones. We're still doing a whole lot of phone calls tonight as we get through Good Friday. Regina, what's going on with you?
Not a whole lot. I just wanted to say, people are getting kind of discouraged on the rescue of these downed soldiers or sailors. And my husband wasn't my husband at the time, but he was my boyfriend. Was in Vietnam. He was a door gunner on a helicopter, and they were shot down over enemy territory. And the pilot and the crew chief was killed, and the co-pilot and my husband, who was a door gunner, was not. And they were found by a Viet Cong couple. He said that the little old man was so old he could barely walk, but they buried the two dead men, and they carried my husband and the co-pilot to their house.
Mm.
And they dug a hole in their floor and put them down in the hole and covered it with thatching.
Wow.
And got them out every night to exercise. And it took them 6 months to safely get word to the American rescuers. And they flew in and rescued them exactly 6 months after their craft went down. So, I believe God is a good God, and he has a hand on these people, and it may take a while, but don't give up. It may be that they find the body, but it may be that they find the survivor.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'd rather find a body and know what happened than to never know. So I just want to tell everybody that's worried not to give up, keep praying, and God will handle it.
Regina, that is an excellent call. Gives us hope. It's gives us a compelling set of options to consider. Maybe some sympathetic Iranians will shelter our pilot. That's, I guess, the second best outcome rather than the hostile regime finding our pilot. According to something I just read, we've got about 5 hours. Thank you, Regina. We got about 5 hours of darkness, which is to our advantage in the search and rescue effort before daylight over there. That's not 5 final hours. It's just 5 hours of advantage where our best effort to get our pilot back could happen in that time frame. Back here in just a minute. Leland Live. Y'all stay tuned. All right, y'all, 435, Leland Live. Y'all get on back in here. Appreciate all the callers tonight. Sometimes y'all just make the show, and we've had some great, very compelling folks, good questions. As we roll through a Good Friday, we're not completely just absorbed with this search and rescue, but it is the biggest story of the day. There's not any other big, heavy-duty news in the news today. That gives us a little room to take calls on anything you want to talk about from the week, serious or not. Y'all get in here, and then we'll call it an Easter weekend. For Easter weekend in your forecast, it's going to be kind of wet tomorrow night, and that'll come in, depending on where you are in the state, somewhere around 7 o'clock. Pretty strong weather, but not on the severe limits as of now. We're not getting any forecasting like that, but nice little sort of cold front type thunderstorms coming through tomorrow night. Should be cleared by the early morning hours as folks get up to do their Easter services and whatnot. And then cooler weather in behind that as we flip those systems back and forth between cool and then sometimes you have the heat back on. I'm not sure we're going to need heat much more this year, even though we may be in the 40s next week. Y'all, Douglas Cooling and Heating is ready to come take care of anything you need on your system in your home. It's just such a complete company. And I'm telling you, I wouldn't have stuck with them for 17 years, either personally in my home and the different homes I've bought and sold over that time, or even on the radio. There's no way they could have been on the air with me for all these years if they just weren't top notch. And here they are. Here we are still together. I'm recommending them to you. They've helped, I would dare say by now, thousands of people in this audience over the years. New installs, second opinions, emergency work, and then the routine twice a year service that we all need to be doing. And I'm constantly reminding you to do, because it will save you in the long run to take good care of your system. It's Douglas Cooling and Heating. Now, they've got a plumbing division, too. If anything goes weird with your plumbing, reach out to them, and they come knock that out for you as well. Their website is calldouglas.com, C-A-L-L, calldouglas.com. If you want to get them over there, they will come over. John Bird on the Wheels of Steel tonight. John, you hanging in there, man? You playing some mighty fine bumper music?
Yeah, man, I'm bringing it, and you know, I got that surprise for you at the end.
Oh, I know what you're going to do at the end. It's a tradition when John Bird, y'all have to hang around for the end.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know which one it'll be, but I know who it'll be before this show is over. I don't even know how we got started doing that. Let me go back to our pilot search for just a minute. We're in this zone, and I mentioned it going into the last break. By the way, the president apparently. There's some tension right now over, is the president going to say anything about this in the moment? He's in the White House, surrounded by his national security team, getting minute-to-minute updates, frenetic activity going on in the dark in Iran. It's to our massive advantage. The darkness is a force multiplier for the search and rescue for us. To find our guy, it gives cover to our guy that's missing. We do know it is a male pilot that was on that plane. The White House has called a media lid for the afternoon meeting. They're not going to do any public appearances tonight after the national security team has got there. The Marine, you always know when the president is in the White House because there's a Marine sentry that will stand by the door when the president's in the building. The helicopter's still on the pad. He typically heads out to Mar-a-Lago, and of course this is a big holiday weekend. I'm sure his family had plans down there. But the president's staying put for the moment. We don't know if he'll be there all weekend. We're all just praying for really good news in the search for our pilot. And he's on the job. I mentioned it earlier, just the optics of this, and that should not play a role. The president should do what's right in this moment. If they need him, he should be there. If they don't, maybe he goes home. But there's going to be criticism either way. If he goes home, it's like he's being callous. It's like he's going off to his family thing while this guy's out there in the dark. If he stays, you inevitably are going to have criticism that the Iranians have gotten the president held hostage in his own White House. They did that in some ways to Jimmy Carter. He's come up already on this show. I will tell you, this is no Jimmy Carter in this White House. Jimmy Carter was infamous after the Iran hostage situation for holding up, and some of y'all remember, I barely remember this as a kid, but I do remember the adults talking about it. And he kind of held up in the White House with his cardigan sweater and wouldn't leave because he wanted to look assertive. Jimmy Carter was aware. And by the way, I got to know him after his presidency. my family, through an explosion actually, and a tragedy, got to know his family before he won the presidency. But afterwards, I got to know him in his retirement days, and probably one of the most decent people to ever be in the office. He was a good man, but not everybody is cut out to be the president of the United States and be aggressive and assertive and be bold and risk taking, which you got to do to be a good leader. Trump, I would dare say Trump, through most of his life, opposite character of Jimmy Carter, but still a much better assertive president. Do you see what I mean? Sometimes it's that right set of skills to do what's right in the moment. Carter would, at times, he would carry his own luggage so it didn't look like he was having servants help him while he was president. In other words, he was trying to keep up this populist image of this peanut farmer from Georgia. And some of that was misplaced too. It didn't project power. And the world watched him and saw, rather than niceness, they saw weakness and they saw meekness. And then during the early days of the Iran hostage situation, he stayed in the White House for days and days on end and didn't make any public appearances. I remember reading about this, and I barely remember seeing him on TV this way, but he made a public appearance and his beard stubble had grown out. I don't know if they did that on purpose. I mean, I'm sure he had time to shave, but rather than looking like he was on the clock and dedicated to these hostages that had been taken, he looked weak. He looked like he was being held hostage in the White House and didn't know what to do about it. So I'll just go through that mental exercise to say Trump's team has to deal with all of that stuff. You win if you damned if you do and damned if you don't when you're president in a crisis like this. And is it a crisis? It is for the rescuers that are going in. I don't want to say crisis. It's probably an overstatement. It's dangerous. And it's dangerous for the rescuers. It's dangerous for our pilot. It's dangerous in a lot of ways. And to me, that's more important than any of the political calculations or the danger to poll numbers or gas prices or somebody's reputation right now. We need to get this guy to safety. I appreciated Regina's call from a little bit earlier. Her call moved me a lot. She talked about her now husband and how he was rescued by some Vietnamese on the ground and hidden for 6 months. They probably had no idea where he was for 6 months in the middle of a hot war where we had people on the ground shooting at us and we were shooting back. It was also a crash situation, and it gave me a little bit of a pause to think, well, there are some other scenarios. Most of the day-to-day, a lot of us have just been considering, well, we either get to him first or the Iranians get to him first. And I did mention some of the Iranians that have access to the internet are posting memes and whatnot of themselves. They've used AI tools to show them sitting around having dinner with the rescued pilot. In other words, saying, if we find him, we're going to protect him. And that's a thing. There's very much people on the ground in that country that are sympathetic with the United States for trying to rescue them from the horrors of this regime. I don't know what the odds are, but I know there's that possibility that some innocent people on the ground, or civilians, we would say, could come to his aid. And it may be that he has to be in hiding. So of the scenarios that are before us right now, maybe there's some I haven't considered. One is we find him tonight quickly. Two is somebody else finds him and gets him to safety, but it takes a while for us to get the transfer done or to get to that location. That's going to take days, weeks, who knows? In the case of Vietnam, in her story, it was 6 months. The worst case scenario, the third option, is the one we're all trying to avoid, is the regime gets their hands on him and starts using him as a bargaining tool in the middle of this situation where you got one man's life on the line against the lives of everybody else that we're trying to save against these maniacs that run that country or whoever's left running the country. High drama. I mean, it just doesn't get it doesn't get crazier than that. There's some unconfirmed reports right now coming out. I don't even want to repeat this. I'm not going to say that. This I was about to get to that being the fourth option. Well, I'll just say it. The fourth option is that somehow the second pilot has lost their life, either in the ejection from the plane or somehow on the ground in some way. And that is even more horrifying. And I guess some of you would even calculate, rather than being captured, held prisoner, and tortured, that might be a better option than the option of being captured by the Iranians. What a difficult situation. So we're watching it. We've only got an hour and 15 minutes or so, and then we're off to Easter weekend. And of course, we'll continue to monitor the story this afternoon. And anything that happens, anything I can confirm with all the crazy reporting, we'll let you know. Sure will. That's what we do. Allen and Company, let's talk. For gift giving or giving yourself something. If you need a jeweler, we all kind of need a jeweler in our lives. If you got people you want to love on, you need a good place to be a go-to when you're ready to go make those purchases. Even smaller things, a little bracelet or pendant necklace or some of these kind of things, all the way to big engagement settings and all that. Allen Company is just really the kind of place, I don't know, that I feel comfortable. You've got a family business, a couple of generations working in there. It's a small shop, fellows. It is not one of these bright, glitzy, intimidating corporate kind of pressure places where they try to put you in a box and steer you to something. They just want you to be happy. Man, what's on your mind? Let you browse, let you hang out, let you leave and come back. Sometimes you want to think a minute. Ladies, when it comes to something more permanent like an engagement setting, maybe you know exactly what you want, but maybe you want to think about it because there are a lot of options nowadays. So they'll work with you on that. They will absolutely work with you on that. It is Allen and Company. They're over in Vestavia. Cleanings, repairs, broken chains, upgrades, all of these things, the maintenance that you have to do from time to time on your precious pieces. You may even have a couple of things in your jewelry box that's not that expensive, but man, is it sentimental, and you've had it for years, but it needs some work and you need to take care of it. You can trust Allen and his family because it never leaves their shop. They've got their own vault. They do their own work and they get it right back to you. And that's a place you can trust. And people in this audience have trusted for years. It's Allen and Company over in Vestavia on Highway 31. Y'all go see them. Allen and Company. Back in a minute. All right, y'all. The Knowles Group bringing you the show today. It's so funny. I kept, from time to time during the day, I'll just check on the stock market ticker to see how it's kind of a barometer for the news cycle for me. I'm not even worried about the investments or anything. I'm just saying, what's it doing today? Because they're reacting to news, right? And especially with this war situation and the oil shock. So I'll look at that. I'll look at the price of oil and go on and do some other stuff, and I'll go back and check it. So this morning, I kept checking it. I was like, why is it not moving? I was like, wait a minute, that's yesterday's number. I went, oh, yeah, it's Good Friday. The market's closed. I forgot. See, that means you wouldn't want me looking out for your investments because I didn't even know. I had no idea. We're all amateurs in a lot of ways. Danny and his team, which is largely his sons and a lot of his partners at the Knowles Group, 100% pros, playing the long game, knowing the averages, knowing the, I don't want to call them tricks, but strategies in that business to have your money perform against the odds. That is, markets go up, markets go down. It's the trend line that you're looking for. It's not the peaks and the valleys and the mountains on the chart. It's where does that line, where's that ramp going, and where does it end up if you can trace it? And that's always true, especially if you look deep backwards in time to the history of the markets. So if you understand how to execute that, you can get your money when it's time for your money and not be constantly moving it and overreacting and being emotional, which I would do if I was just managing it myself. We've all made financial mistakes, I suppose. Y'all reach out to the Knowles Group, see if it's a good fit. It's a personality thing. You got to sit down with them and see if you got a good feel for what they do. I can just tell you, Danny's been wildly successful for our listeners. He's been a good friend of mine since we were 10 years old. Every time we get together, we're sharing childhood stories. We graduated high school together. I knew his wife growing up. They're just good people. They got such fine sons in that practice. And you can listen to their show on the station this weekend. They've got a radio show they call Understanding Money. They invited me over this week. Y'all were listening on Tuesday to hang out in their studio and do our show. It was fun to see their new offices. Y'all think about it. If you're in control of your 401k, or if you are thinking about, say you're starting out and you have no plan and you got no money, but you want to get on track, they'll talk to you. They're not one of these firms that where you need a big pile of money already for them to even talk to you, because they're all, some of these commission-based firms are just looking for big pots of money. Y'all go talk to him. Danny's going to treat you right. He takes care of people. It's the Knowles Group, by the way, the Knowles Group, Knowles, the KnowlesGroup.com. All right, let me be true to the callers. Well, I'll tell you what, I got Birmingham Broker. Craig's over here real quick from Birmingham Broker. Craig, what's going on with you tonight, man? John Bird, is Craig there? Craig, what's up, buddy?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, man, I got
you.
Can you
hear
now.
me?
What's going on, buddy?
Hey, man, nothing, just celebrating Friday and heading home.
Good for you.
So, yeah, I just want to holler at you for a second, man. Just remind everybody that next Saturday, not tomorrow, but next Saturday is our ribbon cutting for BB Electric Moto. And Chubb Fathers is going to be there. We're going to have a DJ. We're doing deep discounts on bikes. We're going to have tons of raffle giveaway stuff. Anyway, so, if anybody out there has been considering looking at these, electric dirt bikes, now's a good time. And if anything, if you just want a free lunch or whatever, we'd love for y'all to come by between 11 and 3. But the other reason I was calling, Leland, we sold 42 bikes last month. Cars last month, but we only brought in 30. So as usual,
Yep.
I need cars. I'm like the weak link by getting the number of cars in for us to sell. So I've got to do my mandatory call out and let people
I'm glad
know
you
that
did.
things are moving.
So what you say is you got a lot of buyers. There are people out there paying top dollar, but you need more cars, and that tells our audience, if you're thinking about doing a trade now, you might get maximum value for that thing as it sits today.
And you said it better than I could. Absolutely.
Well, look,
Absolutely.
The motorcycle part, let's separate the two stories, because I love the electric dirt bike thing. Those things are just cool. I've still yet to ride one. When I popped down there the other day, I was in a hurry to get back to the station, but I gotta take one around the block. And I'm glad that's going well. So just to repeat, a week from Saturday on the 11th, y'all got a sort of a ribbon cutting Formal opening 11 to 3, did you say? 11 to 2?
11 to 3.
11 to 3. Now, there's some other downtown events that morning. I think there's a 5K, so y'all just find your way around over to Birmingham Broker. And these guys, man, they got a cool shop. And did I tell you I wore my BB Electric T-shirt the other day that you gave me?
You did.
I wore it on the air.
It made me proud.
There you go.
We just got a new design one too. I want you to wear, but you got to be comfortable
represent.
with a little splash of pink because it's got a little pink.
I'm man enough to wear pink. I'm not afraid. It's Easter anyway.
I love it.
All right. So, and if you're trying to sell a car right now, just to refine what we do at Birmingham Broker all the time, what Craig and Keith do is they sell cars for you. They handle the deal, and he's saying, "Come, bring your car down there, and they'll get it sold for you right now." Big demand.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate everybody out there. Y'all have been a blessing to our business, and we truly value our relationship with you guys.
All right, man. Good to talk to you, Craig. I hope you have a great weekend. Happy Easter, brother.
Thank you, Leland.
There's Craig from Birmingham Broker tonight. BHAMBroker.com, BHAMBroker.com. Is Donna still hanging on, John? I want to make sure I didn't skip over her. I got late in the call structure and didn't even see Donna's name over there. Donna, I apologize. The floor is yours. Hey, Donna, you can go ahead. Go ahead, Donna. That's some miscommunication going on. She's probably got the radio up, John. Is she there? Is she there?
Yes, she's there.
Donna, let's try it again. Maybe she fell asleep waiting because I think she's been on hold for a while. Can you hear me, Donna? Oh, Donna.
Lord.
All right, there's somebody in it. Sounds like a man. Donna? Dude? Danny?
Yeah.
David?
Oh, that's what.
Should we listen in, John Bird? They're having a private conversation. Is that rude?
That's your call, boss man.
They called me. Hey, they called me. I'm just kidding. We got a total malfunction. So all right,
I'll put them on hold and try and
put them back on hold. We'll try that again in a minute. Sometimes that happens, especially with people who never called a radio show and didn't realize that we're on a little bit of a delay. Y'all, there's a weird story today floating around about Al Gore. Where's he been? Al Gore in the news that he had something to do, that he may be under investigation for the auto pen scandal. I still can't make any sense out of it. Somehow, in the background, we know Joe Biden wasn't the president. I'm not saying just that they stole the election, but this guy was walking into walls. We had a group of people running the place, and the pen was signing everything. But Al Gore apparently had some input and was one of the guys authorizing the auto pens. He wasn't anywhere near this guy had been gone a long time. We know Obama was creeping around, but now they got Al Gore back again, Mr. No Controlling Legal Authority. You remember that? A lockbox. Al Gore, climate change. I mean, I thought we were all supposed to be dead by now, according to him from just a few years ago. We'll deal with that next week, probably. Okay, here's top of the hour. Back in a minute.